Good morning. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Let's see if everything's working fine. Looks like that's fine. Good morning. Hey, Shane. There. Okay. That's fine. Always some technical difficulties. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Happy Friday. Welcome to my weekly virtual office hours. Welcome to the end of August. This week's early artwork is another one from our utility boxes. This is at the corner of Elko and Lawrence Station, right near 237 and Lawrence Expressway. This is an artist that actually has only done children's storybooks up to this point. And so it was great to talk to her and hear about, her journey as an artist and hadn't really done large murals. So this was the first time that she was doing a large mural. And I actually, thought it was fantastic to see how she could bring that livelihood, bring this kind of Earth Day monster or forest monster kind of from a children's book to one of our utility box art projects. So it was really, really fantastic from that standpoint to meet her and hear about her journey as an artist. So anyway, if you get a chance, if you see any of the artists wrapping up, and there's still a few artists that are doing some wrap-up work, this one isn't complete either, please say hi, please thank them if you're out and you see them working on their projects. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thank you for joining me again this week. It's been another busy week. This is the 174th installment of my weekly office hours. Hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, enjoying the end of their summer. It's been an interesting week or two as we started the school year for many students. We've now reached 1,257 days since March 16th, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. Over 3 years ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours into this weekly live stream address. And people still say they enjoy meeting their mayor, hearing from their mayor each week. So thanks to all those that have joined me. People still enjoy this live stream, whether or not they're watching it live or watching the video delayed. But for me, it's just a great way to kind of take stock over the last 2 weeks, give you some updates about what's happening at a city level, what's upcoming, and just answer some of your general questions. If one person has that question, most likely 30 or 40 people have that same question as far as that's concerned. So for me, it is important to have these intermittently. Right now, it's still weekly. At some point, I'll probably do once every few weeks. But thanks for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. Most Fridays, just like today, I follow up this weekly live stream address with in-person sessions at Being Seen on Murphy Avenue. So if you'd like to reserve a 15-minute or 30-minute time slot, just email me at counsel@larryklein.com. And you can always see my calendar at www.larryklein.com. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last few weeks. 2 Saturdays ago, I started out the day with a lot of cyclists for a bike El Camino ride that was going from Santa Clara to Palo Alto or Mountain View border. It was put on by the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, and just to kind of get a better feel for what a potential bike highway from San Jose into Santa Clara is going to be looking like, and also looking at some of the bike lanes that we've added along El Camino. So there's some bike lanes from Fair Oaks to Remington. I think we were the first city to actually add those, but it's good to meet some of the cyclists. There's a big bike caravan, over 100 people, and so it was good to meet some of the residents from Sunnyvale and other cities that want to see what we can do as far as improving bike lanes along the whole corridor. Midday, I was at Daruma Dojo for their back to school party. And so that same Saturday, Daruma Dojo has been working with a lot of the school districts to, for one thing, give self-defense classes to some of the students. But it was, food, music, and just an event to prepare students for the upcoming school year. And then on Sunday, I was back on my bike and up in Lakewood Park for a biking buddies ride. And so this was basically to teach students, to teach young and old, better bike skills, ultimately, going on a short ride along the JW Christian Greenbelt, and, telling them, how to cross, different crosswalks or different streets and on your bicycle, and just, making sure that people wear their helmets, obey the law. And, I really appreciate, it was, a social ride, but I appreciate the educational focus to make sure that kids, families understand, the right way to ride a cycle. And then that same Sunday, Sunnyvale was named by Rent Cafe as the number 5 city to raise a family if you're a renter. And also, most importantly, number 1 in the quality of life. And so, Rent Cafe is, and we have lots of these studies that go on continuously, but they looked at 130 cities across the US for the best places for renting a family. Plano, Texas was number 1, which I was a little surprised about. But so I posted, and I was shocked about how much reach that post had. It was seen by several 100,000 people. So, and people have on both sides of the aisle trying to figure out, for one thing, why certain cities in Texas were number 1. And then it's like, people complaining about California. So it was a very, very lively discussion, and forwarded, many, many times, over 100 times, to different people. So, but for me, it is, representative of, how statistics fluctuate, but there's a lot of good things about Sunnyvale, and I think those surveys usually capture them, from a safety standpoint, from just the number of parks that we have, the quality of life, the income of the average income of people in the community. And so all those things together, it's quality of life is very good in Sunnyvale. And then last Monday, the California legislature returned for the final 5 weeks of their session. So, ultimately they have about 3 more weeks left to finalize what they're going to do with all the bills that were introduced this session. About over 1,700 bills were introduced. Over 1,000 have been sent to the Senate, and nearly 90 have already gone to Newsom's desk, and 890 Senate bills were introduced. So 1,700 assembly bills, about 800 and almost 900 Senate bills were introduced, and 660 have been passed to the Assembly, and 50 have moved on to the governor. So lots of work going on on either side, both the Senate and the Assembly right now. It's ultimately, I think most of them have been finalized and getting out of committee, or out of the Appropriations Committee. And so whether or not they'll be suspended, so if they don't make it out of the Appropriations Committee, they'll be moved on to next year and conceivably revived at that point. But a certain number have moved on, and I haven't been able to keep track of everything, but it's that back and forth and changes to the bills that need to go on. It's about 3 weeks from now when they'll have that midnight deadline to get all the approval from both the Senate and the Assembly on the bills that then need to go onto the governor's desk. So we'll see, although there have been multiple gut and replace bills. So basically bills that were represented one thing at the beginning of the year, and then all the language is removed and it's been replaced with something else. So I haven't been able to keep track of everything, but definitely there are lots of new bills that have been proposed, and we'll see what happens. Governor Newsom basically wanted to focus on mental health reform, education, and gun safety as, let's say, some of the quick gut and replace bills. And so we'll see what final bills get across the line and onto the governor's desk next month. Last Tuesday was Independence Day, Indian Independence Day. And, I spent the morning on Murphy Avenue getting interviewed by our local radio host, Namrita Yuhana. So she works for 92.3. And we talked about, what's happening in the Indian community, what's happening, in Sunnyvale, and all the wonderful things happening. But it was good to talk about my journey on how I became mayor, and it's great to honor that spirit of patriotism and the diversity that makes India vibrant and strong, and that same traditions, those traditions being brought to the U.S. By our Indo-Americans, and those celebrations that happened all over the Bay Area, all over the nation over the last 2 weeks. But happy to be interviewed, happy to talk about Sunnyvale and the great things that are happening here. Last Tuesday evening, council met and interviewed our board and commission applicants, and we do this on a quarterly basis. There's always a few open positions. Usually the most are happening mid-year in June, but every quarter we end up having to deal with open positions in a specific board or commission. And I think we had 4 different open positions for this. So about, 9 or 10 applicants that we ended up interviewing. And then last Thursday, I met with representatives from Canyon Lake, California. So it's a city in Riverside, and ultimately, they're looking at right now they're contracting with the county sheriff and county fire for their public safety, and looking to duplicate our merged public safety model. Whether or not, evaluating whether or not that would make their community safer, whether or not they get better response, and from a certain standpoint, it's a cost evaluation. It's like for what we pay from a city, we pay less per capita for our Department of Public Safety, our merge model, than any city in the Bay Area. So, and we haven't compared ourselves to all of the United States, but that shows the value of our merge model. And I think from that standpoint, whenever there's a downturn, whenever there's, issues, when the big discussion about defunding the police or reimagining the police, a lot of cities come and evaluate us. And as far as I know, no city has actually moved forward with that. So this might be one of the first few that actually see value in that merge model, and taking it as from a contracted service with the county to a service, their own merge model Department of Public Safety. So that was great to talk with the mayor, the city manager, and a council member who were visiting Sunnyvale to get kind of do a deep dive of our model and what the pluses and minuses are. And then last Thursday night, there was another West Nile virus spraying here in Sunnyvale. It's like they had discovered mosquitoes again with West Nile virus. And so this was the second spraying in the last month. So yeah, definitely do whatever you can do to prevent standing water, and that's how mosquitoes can reproduce. But it's a common thing. So I think there's a spraying on Monday in San Jose, and I think so different parts of San Jose and kind of this whole South Bay that they're constantly doing monitoring. So thanks to County Vector Control for doing that monitoring and doing the spraying when mosquitoes are detected. And then last Friday night, I was in Columbia Park for our second of our Sunset movie series. Good to see a lot of people out. The movie, of course, was Top Gun Maverick, and I think it was a fun evening. It's a really great movie, and lots of action and lots of kids and adults that came by to watch the movie. Our last movie is of course tonight at Washington Park, and that will be Lightyear. So definitely come by. And then last weekend was another busy weekend for me. I went to several India Independence Day celebrations here in Sunnyvale, as well as a big parade put on in Fremont. Saturday evening, Legally Blue was on Murphy Avenue for Jazz and Beyond. So it was good to drop by there, see some friends, and then also Saturday night, Old Greenwood Barbecue. So that's the barbecue restaurant at Sunken Gardens had a Maui fundraiser, and that was had music and they had people dancing, and it was just it was really great from that standpoint. Island Blend was the band, and they were playing Hawaiian music and had some dancers there. But it was just a very lively event, and happy to be out at Sunken Gardens and having some good barbecue. If you haven't tried, definitely one of the best barbecue places that we have here in Sunnyvale. And then as far as this week is concerned, on Monday and early parts of the week, we had definitely some weird weather, a little bit of rain as we got the kind of the edges of Hurricane Hillary as it hit California. And definitely we weren't hit as bad as some of the cities in Southern California. I'm good friends with Todd Gloria, the mayor for San Diego, and he declared a state of emergency going into the weekend. It wasn't as bad as some of the forecasters had predicted, luckily, but definitely there was some localized flooding in a few areas. But we got a little bit of rain, and even now we're getting kind of a gloomy day. So hopefully, and I think the biggest thing is getting a surprising amount of humidity, which we normally don't see here in the Bay Area. And then Tuesday evening, I was at the Fremont Union High School District meeting to hear about how they are moving to trustee districts. So what they're planning to do is break up the high school district, which spans Sunnyvale, Cupertino, parts of Los Altos, parts of San Jose, part of unincorporated Santa Clara County, that kind of goes up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, into five different districts. And so, I want to thank the trustees for deciding to move to trustee area elections. The CVRA laws are pretty clear on how you go through that process. And, going to districts has really helped Sunnyvale. It's the representation and the diversity of our city council is more than it's ever been before. Partially, because the barrier to actually run an election is a lot smaller. You don't have to go through you don't have to go citywide. and reach, from north, south, east, west of the city. Now we split the city into 6 districts. What they're doing is breaking that Fremont Union High School district into 5 districts. So it should be good, and you'll hear more about that process coming up. On Wednesday, midday, we had a ribbon cutting for Inspire Medical. And so, this is a new medical company. Well, it's Inspire Medical Group is based in Palo Alto. And, they're committed to, making sure that there's primary care at a local level, more hands-on. And it's also, care to some of the underserved communities, making sure that they have language services. So, multiple people in the office speak multiple languages, so it's like, it's not just English focused, and making sure that communication, that Sunnyvale is a very diverse city, and making sure that they're able to speak the native language of multiple people, I think is fantastic. And so that's one of the main focuses. And that medical group, so Inspire Medical, opened up at 333 West El Camino. So it's right across from the Cherry Orchard, right across from PF Chang's and Starbucks at that large building there. So yeah, go by and say hi if you want, if you're looking for a new provider or a new doctor. Dr. Kim is a longtime Sunnyvale resident, so happy to meet him and his wife for their grand opening. And then Wednesday evening was the final evening for our summer music series on Murphy Avenue. So that ended our 24th season. So, looking forward to next year. But I just want to thank the Downtown Association for basically getting together everyone for that music every year. And it was very, very busy. It's like it gets progressively busier throughout the summer as people finally realize that, Wednesday nights on Murphy Avenue are back. And so it was good to be out there. The Sunnyvale staff, council member, Cisneros and Cell were there to have, to give wristbands. And so we were raising funds for a nonprofit, and kind of making sure that just to meet people and, talk to people about what's happening in the community. So a lot of fun as far as that's concerned, but ended our 24th season and looking forward to the 25th next year. And then yesterday, the CDC and the FDA officials basically spoke about the government preparations for a fall and winter respiratory virus season. And the biggest thing is COVID-19 vaccines have been tweaked for the latest strains of the virus, and it's supposed to they expect it to land in drugstores and clinics mid-September. So there'll be a lot more information coming at the beginning of September, but almost time to get your flu shot, get your booster as far as that's concerned. As I said previously, I won't be covering, weekly COVID numbers unless things change dramatically. But there has been lots more news, hospitalizations. I was reading an article yesterday are supposedly up. Hospitalizations are up 22% this week over last week. And so we are seeing a general increase in the number of hospitalizations and I've heard of more people having COVID, and definitely the virus is still out there. It's more transmissible, although for a lot of people, it's just a minor cold. So it depends on, what your immune system is, what boosters you might have had, all that. But ultimately, yes, COVID is still here, and we'll see what this winter brings us. I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, especially at the county level, the state level, at the federal level, discussions with our supervisor and his staff, Congressman Khanna, so it's good from that standpoint to represent Sunnyvale and making sure that we're getting our fair part. Let me go ahead and announce some of the upcoming events. Still lots of happening. Summer's almost over, but there's still lots within our community. The Sunset movie series finishes up tonight. Movies will begin at sunset, and so that's around 7:45 tonight. but there are, games for kids starting around 7 p.m. and then the movie starts. But tonight's movie is Lightyear. It happens at Washington Park, so 840 West Washington Avenue. But yeah, a movie I haven't seen, but all the movies so far have been fun, and I've watched majority of them, or actually watched majority of them, and conceivably gone home and watched the rest over the weekend. So lots of things happening. And then this weekend, August, of course, is Silicon Valley Pride Month. And so Sunday is the big day with the Pride Parade starting around 10:30 a.m. on Market. So, if you want to go, if you want to join the parade, there's multiple floats and people to walk with. So, Supervisor Lee, I think all the supervisors will have different walking parades, so walking floats, and there'll be, lots of different organizations having, that'll be represented there. And it starts at Market in Coleman and goes to Cesar Chavez Park, right there in downtown. And so, yeah, if you want to join the fun, and then after the parade, there's basically activities all, the rest of the day at Cesar Chavez. And then the State of the City is coming up in September. That's coming up on Saturday, September 23rd. So definitely, if you want a tour of the new City Hall, that will be happening throughout the day on that date. And then, of course, there'll be State of the City speech by myself. There'll be we'll be honoring our board and commission members, and we'll be honoring some community award winners. So, it's like every year we honor, best business, best high school student, so it's actually really, really great from that standpoint, to honor the people that are doing good in our community. And then as far as upcoming council meetings, our next council meeting is next Tuesday, August 29th. We'll be appointing our new board and commission members. And then we'll also be seeing an appeal to build 18 condominiums. Wow, I had this problem last week. Condos on a location at Crescent Avenue. So it's just one of the things that was seen at the Planning Commission, and then I think a resident or a group of residents have appealed it to City Council to make that final decision. Haven't looked at the packet yet, but I'll be reviewing that over the weekend. I went by there yesterday, so it's always good to do a site visit and figure out what's on that site. So the Crescent Avenue, the site is just off of Sunnyvale Saratoga Road, and next to some apartments and other things. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Wendy asked, we've lived here since 1994, and over that time I've noticed the care for our city trees is non-existent until one falls down in a storm. When will the funding be given to proactively trim trees before they become a hazard in the storms? Our street lost many trees over the last 2 years, and will lose more as many are very full and heavy. Please provide funding to proactively keep our city trees healthy. So Sunnyvale has about 37,000 street trees in the park strips, and the majority and the parks. The majority of those trees are trimmed as contracted in the summer months, and on average, all the street trees are trimmed every 7 years. Now, during COVID, we actually tightened our belt a little bit and said, okay, we can delay that tree trimming for a year or two, but we actually restarted the standard retrimming this year. So catching up, so basically doing the normal amount of trees that we would normally do every summer. So, about 5,000 trees approximately. But council also approved, one of the budget proposals that I had, budget modification, to spend an additional money to catch up on the trees that we didn't trim over the last 2 years. And so we approved that $1.2 million to catch up. And city staff does do a little bit of trimming, but they're limited, and ultimately what they mainly focus on is when there's something that's really unsafe, when there's a limb that's cracked when, a tree falls because of wind and other things. So, definitely we are trying to catch up, and pre-COVID we were doing trimming every year. So it isn't non-existent. We do go through all the neighborhoods and have somebody come out, usually every summer. It's the best time to be trimming those trees, and making sure that they're as safe as they can be. But if you see something that you think is unsafe, specific tree, definitely report it to the city, and the city arborist will come out and evaluate the tree as far as that's concerned, and see if there's some emergency trimming that actually needs to take place. Ravi asked, I know Magical Bridge has a tot zone, but are there other Sunnyvale playgrounds designed for the youngest ages? Is Magical Bridge the youngest? I love your restaurant reviews, but I wish there was a little Larry Klein who would go around each week and review a playground. So, I'm still doing my restaurant reviews. So definitely visit eatsunnyvale.com. But to see all the latest restaurants that I'm highlighting. But I have no plan to do park reviews, at least in the short term. But there are lots of parks with tot lots designed for ages 5 and under. And so beyond Fair Oaks Park, where definitely there's a tot lot for those 5 and under. You can also go to Murphy Park, Sarah Park, Encinal, Fairwood, Orchard Gardens, Ortega, Washington, and Weiser Park. So they all have areas that are specifically for tots. And this is the whole thing. It's like, and that's, I think, about a third of the parks that we have in the city. So that's the whole thing as we're evaluating every park, and as we're going back and renovating each park, we relook at what the needs are within the community, doing community outreach and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. But there are kind of tot lots spread throughout the city. Hopefully you can go to the city website, and if you search for parks, you can actually get a full listing, or take a look at the post that I did earlier this week, or a response to that question. I think it was maybe out last week's questions. Kenneth asked, do you know what is going into the old Wendy's building on Matilda? So yes, it is planned to be a Taco Bell. Renovations are underway, although I just saw about the new type of Taco Bell that's opening up in San Jose, which actually serves alcohol also. So I'm not sure if that's going to be one of the new brands that they're trying to put into their new businesses. But yes, it is planned to be a Taco Bell, and renovations are pretty active right now. Sihat asked, and I answered part of this long question last week, but let me go ahead and reread it. Dear Mayor, as a resident, I believe the City Council is to promptly initiate a series of actions which encompass the cleansing of our city streets, the ratification of homeless encampments, RV parks, rigorous enforcement of both municipal and state regulations, and the revival of Sunnyvale's esteemed position as a symbol of urban excellence. As a resident, I just missed it. Such a long one. As a resident, we remain steadfast in our commitment to facilitate compassion initiatives aimed at aiding those in vulnerable situations. Nevertheless, we are resolute in our conviction that inadequate public policies must be discarded, while a renewed focus must be channeled into revitalizing the city that we deeply cherish. So, thank you, Sihat. Yeah, we are definitely looking at the unhoused issue within our community. Over the last 2 years, we've been, giving additional. We have a contract with Home First to do community outreach, and we also reserved, beds at one of the shelters. So we've had 10 of the unhoused residents within our community take those shelter beds and kind of moved from being unhoused into the shelters. Earlier this year, just last month, we had our new unhoused service manager start. So we created a position. Council directed the city manager to create that position, to be that point of contact between our resident advocates, multiple nonprofits. So it's like, Sunnyvale Community Services, Downtown Streets team are helping hands. And then, of course, the county. The county has lots of resources to evaluate the unhoused community, as well as kind of conceivably place them into shelters, as well as giving them health care and other things. So it was important from that standpoint, and it is a priority. One of the things that council said is a priority this year. We have a safe parking study issue coming to council in the fall to evaluate whether or not we will be adding safe parking, what the locations are, how much money it would cost, all those sorts of things. But definitely it's something that is high on our list of priorities from a city standpoint, and that's one of the things we created that new position. And I think we'll see how it works out, but I've already heard good things about the new manager that we hired. Jesse asked how much money was spent on marketing to get the number 5 best city to rent or in to raise a family rating. We all know what goes into getting a rating like this, and PR costs are huge. No, Sunnyvale didn't pay anything in PR. So I'm not sure if other cities paid to get at the top of that list, but definitely Sunnyvale did not, pay anything. And this is always the thing. It's like in these surveys released multiple times every year by different organizations doing different evaluations and taking different things into consideration when they're coming up with their happiest city, their quality of life, the safest city. All those things, vary from city to city. And it takes ultimately whatever that study organization does to figure out what they're going to be doing and what specific statistics they look at when they're compiling their list. So for us, I'm just happy that we're often in the top 10 of a lot of these surveys, as far as safety, as far as happiness, as far as quality of life and best place to raise a family. So, I think it says a lot to how the city is run, our focus on creating open space and making sure that, our public safety model, how that affects, our residents and our residents' appreciation for that public safety. So all those things kind of go together into a single model. Lewis asked, or Lewis commented, we need a summary page of all these art box designs, much like you did with your great Sunnyvale food and restaurant page. So yeah, so if you go to larryklein.com, you'll see a link to, for one thing, to the Eat Sunnyvale site where I'm doing all my restaurant reviews. But now there's a tab for the mayor's art project. So I've highlighted the 16 locations, the utility box locations where phase 2 of the project went, and that's all around the city. And then the Great Box Cover-Up Project, phase 1, which was mainly downtown, and that was 12 locations downtown. That map is also there showing all the cross streets and giving a few of the pieces of art. I'll probably go back through and list every site for the utility box art, and then kind of going through and the city of Sunnyvale already has a page to do kind of a walking tour or a driving tour, depending on how far you want to go, of the different art in private locations. So that's one of our requirements for all the new commercial, all the new office space that's being built is adding artwork. And so definitely we have a good amount of art spread throughout the city, and the City of Sunnyvale website actually has a good amount of that. Rosie asked, hi, Larry, we all love dance nights Wednesdays on Murphy Avenue. Can you do something to extend this longer into the year? So yeah, I've talked to Mike Johnson in the Downtown Association. They are looking to add, a port that added either started a little bit earlier or continuing it a little bit later next year. But it all comes down to money and sponsorship and all that. But fantastic to see that liveliness as far as Wednesday night rock and Saturday night jazz and what that does to downtown. But it was really, really a great experience Wednesday night to see the end of the season, and looking forward to next year and hopefully having more weeks. You know, it normally would start the first week of June and then go to the end of August. I think they started the first week of July this year, so just after July 4th, and hopefully we're at least starting in June next year. George asked, the City Hall looks great. Is there a schedule for considering new facilities for public safety that recently expanded, and the library? So Civic Center modernization phase 1 added the new EOC building, so the new 2-story building next to public safety. And then there's actually renovations going on inside the public safety building. So between the renovations and that addition, the public safety building is good for, you know, a good 10 years, 15 years. And then the library was considered, so phase 1 of the Civic Center was the addition onto public safety, the renovation, and the new City Hall. Phase 2 of the Civic Center modernization is the library, and council will be making a decision on the library late at the end of this year, beginning of next year, on whether or not it's a renovation and an addition onto the existing library, or creating a whole new library. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. It's mainly a funding question, but that will be coming up to council sometime soon. Gina asked, when can I get a tour of the new City Hall? So everybody who's been asking for a tour, on Saturday, September 23rd in the morning, we will have our State of the City, and they'll have staff that'll be giving tours of the whole new building. We were hoping to have all the grounds done, and most of the old buildings have been torn down. The part of the annex, City Hall annex, is still up, but we were hoping to have all the old buildings torn down and everything, all those grounds renovated in time for that State of the City. It looks like it's going to be next year. We're only a few weeks away, and they haven't completed all that work, and that was all because of PG&E not being able to tear down the buildings. But you will be able to get a tour on September 23rd. Adi asked, why is the water at Sarah Park blue? Is the chemical non-toxic? So yes, it is non-toxic. The colors help to prevent algae, same as the community center, same as I think Las Palmas Park, and I think also Braley Park. So it's basically, you know, non-toxic, but it prevents algae for that settling water. George asked, the disaster in Maui is really tragic. Have you any suggestions for sending support donations to the people on the island? Red Cross, United Way are usually the best ways to give money, or best organizations to give money to. Old Greenwood Barbecue had a fundraiser last week. Slice of New York is actually giving a portion of their sales of pizzas with pineapple on them to Maui Relief. And I think UFC gyms at Wolf Road and Old San Francisco, they are actually taking donations of physical items. So you can drop by there, and I think they're taking blankets, they're taking clothes, they're taking other things that will then be shipped to help out those people in Maui. Olwen asked, do dumpster days happen in Lowlander? So lots of different communities have dumpster days, and it all depends on whether or not someone gets together, you know, neighbors get together in a specific community to sponsor that. It's not just having the dumpsters delivered, but you need people to monitor what's being thrown away, to make sure that, you know, it's not paint, it's not, you know, mattresses. There's certain things that can't be immediately thrown away, although it does depend on, you know, that work, that communication with our service, with ultimately the service, the garbage service organization, to make sure that they mark certain dumpsters. You know, it's like when Lakewood had their dumpster days last month, there was 1 or 2 dumpsters that would take mattresses. It was things of that nature, is trying to figure out what makes sense for your community. Let me go ahead and see if there's any comments or any questions that are here. George asked, moving away from weekly, dang, I'll have to redo my calendar. Well, right now I'm still planning to do weekly live stream addresses as much as possible. So I think it is worthwhile. And for me, it's a great way to reconnect to people. So that to me is really important. And people want to find out what's happening in the city. And I think this is one of the best ways for me to kind of promote all the good things that are happening. And not everybody watches it, but there are a good number of people, over 100 people usually watch it every week. And so it's that word of mouth of that 100 people tell their friends and their family what's going on from a city standpoint. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. We live in interesting times, and new issues, new problems, new challenges come up almost every day. But I want you to know that no matter what challenges we face them together. I'm proud of Sunnyvale and how our residents have responded to all the different issues over the last few years. But it's how people have shown their generosity, kindness that really, I'm really thankful for. I'm blessed to be mayor for our city. Everyone, there's lots of people that will help out in the community, helping out their neighbors, helping out strangers. Your actions and your attitude really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together, and we will get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.